All right, we've been getting a lot of questions about the InstaScope, so we're gonna go through some of the most common questions we get. You got questions, we got answers. Let's go. Okay, how is the InstaScope different from a particle counter? You can think of the InstaScope as like a whole building screening tool, whereas a particle counter is just that. It's measuring particles. You don't know what type of particle they are, you don't really know if they're biological, you're not looking at chemicals, you don't understand the ventilation issues in the building. And so if you take something like a particle counter and go into a house, you're only getting one little parameter of this huge air quality world and not really understanding fully what's going on and what the exposure is to the occupants. Something like the InstaScope, you're able to screen all these things at once, and one thing that is similar about the particle counter, you're getting this in real time. So you're actually able to see how much mold is in the air, how much pollen, bacteria, virus, how many particles are in the air, it does that too, how many chemicals, what is the CO2 so I can check ventilation. You're getting all this information, boom, right there real time, and it can help direct your investigation to make you a better inspector. All right, here's a great question. Why test for pollen, bacteria, virus? There's something called total biological load, and total biological load refers to the combined exposure to all biological contaminants in your environment. There's more things than just mold that could be causing an issue biologically. So we know a lot of people have allergies from outdoors. We know that bacteria can also be present in water damaged buildings or buildings with poor ventilation, and the same thing is true with viruses. And how are we assessing that? If we just go in a house and just check for mold or just check the particulate, we're not getting the total biological load, therefore we're not getting the total biological exposure for the occupants. And if you pair this total biological load with checking for particulate, checking for chemicals and ventilation issues, all the things that the InstaScope does, now we get a really good understanding of what the total exposure is like for the occupants and what the overall air quality is. Oh God, here's the big one. Does the InstaScope tell me the species of mold? All right, the InstaScope, what it does is it tells you the total amount of mold spores in the air. It does not tell you the species, but hot take, the species is not important in this situation. Oh my God, smite him, smite him. Let me explain, all right? The most important thing about something like a mold inspection is finding the source of mold. If you have someone coming in just to test, whether it's telling you the species or not, it is not helpful for you unless you know where the source of mold is. And something like the InstaScope is really doing two things for you. One, it's giving you total exposure, so I can screen the whole house, sample the whole house or the whole building, get an understanding of what the total exposure is for the occupants. But the other thing the InstaScope does is it helps you find the source of mold. All right, so for example, I'm walking through a house and I'm testing every single room with the InstaScope, and I notice, wait, why is the son's room higher in mold spores than the rest of the house? Or why is the kitchen higher than the rest of the house? I've identified an anomaly in the sampling, and I can say, wow, okay, maybe there's a source here, right? Oh, but what if it's not in the air at the time? Well, that's why you have the resuspension feature. So you actually resuspend the air, you compare it with the sample that was still, and you could say, wow, there's a lot of mold in the dust. So either way, it can help you find that source. Now, what if you just want to use a source tracking feature on the InstaScope? Maybe I'm worried about it behind a vanity. Maybe I'm worried about the mold in a wall. Well, I could take the wand and I could put it in that vanity. I can use the source track feature and I can see if the mold spores increase in that area. And so with scanning the whole house, using resuspension, using the source tracking feature, I can actually track down the source of the mold. Now, when I find the mold, then I could swab it and check what type of mold it is if it's really important to know. But the InstaScope is really designed to help identify the exposure, identify where the sources are, and then you can leave the actual sampling for type once you find it. But guess what? If you didn't use the InstaScope, you might not have found it. Okay, on the topic of mold, does the InstaScope test for mycotoxins? No, but it doesn't need to. Why? Well, mycotoxins are a toxin produced by mold. So if you find the mold, you find the mycotoxin. There's a lot of misinformation out there about mycotoxins and how they're a gas and they fly around independently from the mold, completely separate. That's not true. Mycotoxins are actually bound to the spore or to the fungal fragment or to the hyphae or to the whatever. They're actually bound to the fungus. So they don't fly around on their own. So if you find mold spores and fragments in the air, which the InstaScope tests for, then by proxy, you found the mycotoxins. If you can't find any in the dust or in the air, then by proxy, there are no mycotoxins. And so again, it always goes back to finding the source of the mold. If you're looking for mycotoxins, look for the source of the mold. All right, why should I test for TVOC and CO2? Okay, TVOC is a total volatile organic compound. What is that? Those are chemicals that are off-gassing off of building materials and new furniture and products that are used in the home. And this is really important to track down, especially as buildings get tighter and tighter. Because guess what? If buildings are designed to keep the outside out, you know what that means? That means they're keeping the inside in. So when we build buildings with all these new building materials and our furniture, and we're using all these products in here, these chemicals just build. And a lot of these chemicals can be a health risk for the occupants. A lot of VOCs are known to be irritants, carcinogenic, they have toxins associated with them. And so knowing what the total volatile organic compound is in the air is really important to assess overall exposure. Again, if you're doing indoor air quality, you have to know all of these things. You can't just go in there and check for mold. All right, so what about carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is a great way to check for ventilation issues in a building. Why is that? Well, the main producer of carbon dioxide is us, humans. And so why is that important? Well, if a building is built tight or it has no fresh air coming in, and there are humans and dogs and cats and animals living in there, the CO2 level is going to increase and increase. And it's a great way for us to tell how much fresh air you're actually getting, because if the CO2 level is high, there's no dilution to let that carbon dioxide escape. And so by proxy, we could say, wow, okay, well, if the CO2 level is high, there's no ventilation. Maybe VOCs can be increasing in here as well because they're not escaping. Maybe humidity can be increasing as well because it's not escaping, and all of these things. So checking CO2 is a great way to check overall ventilation, which is a huge part of air quality. All right, enough about the sciencey stuff. How do I make money with the InstaScope? Oh, baby, now you're talking my language. Sorry, I'm getting excited because I like money. There's a lot of ways to make money with the InstaScope, and honestly, just having one is going to increase the value of your business. Why? Well, now you can provide same-day results. You can do reports right there on site, which means you don't have to go back and talk to customers later. And then any questions they have, you can answer right there, so it's saving time. And then now you can do unlimited sampling for your customer, which is so crazy. It's such a great value for them. And then you can do other testing that you weren't doing before. I mean, what else is doing airborne bacteria and virus? Exactly. So being able to give that to your customer, I mean, there's so many things that the actual InstaScope adds to your business that you weren't able to do otherwise, that puts you above the rest of the competition. But there are some other ways you can actually utilize this. For example, maybe you want to do an add-on service. So if you did want to use it as an add-on service, it could look something like this. Hey, Miss Customer, yeah, we got that mold inspection coming up. I wanted to let you know about this add-on that we have called the InstaScope protocol. It's $295. And charge what you want. And instead of that 3 samples that you have included, we can actually expand that to unlimited sampling. We can screen the whole house with this InstaScope, and it's going to be able to give you real-time data. So instead of waiting, we can actually give you data right there on site, and we're able to check for particulates. We can check for airborne bacteria and virus. We're able to check for your chemicals in your house, and we can check for your ventilation to see how much fresh air you're getting. So we're adding on all this stuff for $295 with these unlimited samples. This is something you'd like to do. I mean, gosh, who wouldn't want to do that, right? And so if you sell just 10 of those a month, which really, if you're selling 30 inspections a month or whatever, it's really, really easy. 10 of those a month, you're making like 40 grand a year, just based on that alone. So you can see, just explaining to the customer all these benefits and bonuses that you have and you can bring to the table with your equipment over everybody else is really going to increase the value, whether you want to do it as an add-on or not. And by the way, you have this awesome screening tool. Why not sell to your customer a reoccurring service like a pest control company or something? Hey, Miss Customer, yeah, that awesome screening tool you saw, would you like us to do this every 3 months for you? That way we could just screen the house for all these parameters and just help maintain the home and protect the investment that you have in your property and protect the health of your family. I mean, it's really not going to be much more just to have us come out every couple months and make sure things are all good. So we talked about making money, but what about saving time and money? Because saving money is making money, right? And so saving time with customers on follow-up calls 2 days later when the reports come back, saving time to UPS, shipping samples off every day. What about saving time on the actual labs that you're taking and sending off to the lab? I guarantee you with a machine like this, you're going to be taking a lot less samples and sending them off to a lab. So saving money in lots of different facets of your business is going to be a huge part of making money with the InstaScope. So this is just the most common questions that we get. I hope it was helpful. And if you need anything else, you know where to find us.